we're gonna go ahead and get started. I have nothing for, just gonna go ahead and get started, guys. So I have nothing for my president's report. Do we have anything for the superintendent's report?
Yes, good evening, everyone. It's coming down here to the end of our 2024-2025 school year. And I just want to give a shout out to all of the amazing celebrations, moving up ceremonies, graduations, award shows, field days, pool celebrations, kindergarten, high school time capsule. I can't remember. I think we've already discussed that one, but there have been outstanding displays of Spartan spirit and Spartan pride across this district for the last month. I cannot thank the staff and the students who made these events so spirited. It's so wonderful to see, and it made me so proud to be the leader of this outstanding Spartan community, and not to leave out the parents, because I am certain that so much of the success of these events is due to their hard work and their commitment to their children and to our school district. So I just am so grateful for everyone, and I did write that today in my message from the superintendent out to the full community, and I did mean every word of it. So thank you to all. We have a few more things to go. We have our senior clap out tomorrow. All of our graduating high school seniors will return to their elementary schools for a final clap out. It is a very emotional and sentimental, symbolic day, and I wish everyone good luck as they return to visit where it all began for each of them. And it's our last day of school on Thursday, where we will have our two graduation ceremonies. The intermediate school graduation is at 2 p.m. The high school graduation is at 4:30 p.m. Both take place at the high school. We are watching the weather very carefully. Unfortunately, we are seeing some concern with the weather, but we're going to keep a positive outlook, and we are going to be hopeful that both of these events will take place in Spartan Stadium on Thursday. But should we need to make an adjustment, we will inform the community. The principals will be sending something. We will not make a final decision of parents at each school for either scenario. Okay, and I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of that. And that concludes my report for this evening.
Thank you, Mrs. Bowman. Absolutely. Positive outlook for Thursday. Fingers crossed. We'll make it happen. Students will graduate.
They will.
Mr. Hastings.
Thank you, Mr. President. About a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, the board asked us to look into our use facilities policies and regulations, to look at our fees and the fees that we're charging, and there was a question about what we've charged over time as well. So we're going to hand out to the board our policy and regulation, as well as a brief slide like that. Oh, basically really only 2 slides. I just want to review this with the board. We went and looked at 6 districts, including our own.
I want everybody to have the blue stuff. Copy of this.
The blue stuff.
The blue stuff. That's the way to put it. With both.
No.
All right, Jeff. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Sorry to cut you off.
No, thank you. So we looked at our own, we looked at Deal, Freehold Township, Middletown, Neptune, and Shore Regional as comparables. Pulled all their regulations. Excuse me. The policies are generally the same. Policies talk about the desire of the board to make facilities available to the public. The regulation is really where you get into the fees and the what ifs and wherefores, therefores, and all the other good stuff. It's not really an apples to apples comparison, unfortunately, when you look at the various policies, because folks break things down into different hourly charges. 2 hours, half days, full days. Some, for example, Neptune does not rent out its turf field, whereas other districts, much like our own, do. Some charge for custodial fees, some charge for security and or technology folks for help. So again, we took more of a broad brush approach to give you a general feel for where we are and what these policies include. In looking at them, and if you look at the second slide here on our handout, policy regulation 7510, use of facilities. So all of them basically break users down into classes or priority users. And typically the first is a nonprofit, school-related or education-related organization. A class 2 or a priority 2, again, is nonprofit, but it's more typically local community groups. And then 3 is for-profit commercial groups who are looking to utilize the facilities. All obviously have an application process that we go through. It includes a written application that's submitted by the requester, and it has to be submitted with an appropriate amount of lead time. Fees are assessed based on their classification, their priority status that I just mentioned. They're all required to provide proof of insurance and list the district as an additional insured. And what that means is that their insurance carrier is the primary for any claims that may arise out of the use. And then, of course, most of the use requests require board approval. If you look at the next page, we have on the left our Ocean Township fees for nonprofit and profit. And I've compared our fees to the average of those other 5 users. So for example, if someone wants to use the gymnasium here at Ocean Township and is considered a nonprofit, it's $180 to $5 facility fee. The average for the other groups is $275. So there's a $90 difference there between our fee and the average fee. Again, cafeteria, 145 versus 188. And as you go down, you can see the rest of the numbers. The numbers increase on the profit side or the for-profit side in terms of users. So again, we talked about 185 for us for nonprofits. The charge for profit is $540 versus a $559 average. So there, the difference is really only $19. So again, our fees are generally in line with what the average is. There's some differences where we could tweak them perhaps a little bit. But for example, if you look at the auditorium on the nonprofit, we charge $325 for the auditorium and nonprofit average is $125. So there we're a little higher than what the average is. So again, generally speaking, we're in line with the averages. Again, when you talk about the class of users and the fees associated with those users, typically the nonprofits do not pay necessarily a facility fee. And again, it depends how far you're breaking down your user group and what your definition of them is. And typically you would charge the nonprofits the fee to cover your custodial costs. But even that then gets into, if we have custodians on a shift during the usage time, we don't necessarily charge them because we have staff there anyway and they're cleaning those facilities and those rooms at some point. So you're not sort of double charging or charging them for staff you've already got in the building. We also were asked, excuse me, about the fees that we've collected. So over the past 3 years, you can see in 2023, we collected just under $62,000 for the year. In 2024, it was $45,000. In 2025, as of May, it was $43,000. When I look back at the 2023, which was 60 versus the 45s, the basic difference was 2 one-off users, 2 profit users that use our facilities for an event during 2023 that did not, again, use it in 24 or 25. So that's why there's a difference of about $15,000 there. In terms of who's using our facilities, We've got, during those 3 years, between 25 and 30 specific groups that apply to use the facility. The majority of use is really done by requests from soccer or basketball. So those were the majority of times that were booked by those groups versus some of the other groups. Again, it's not strict apples to apples when we look at the comparison, but in terms of the feel for what our fees are, we're close to what some of the averages are. And in terms of the revenues, you're looking at, generally speaking, over the last 2 years, $45,000 the district's bringing in those costs. That, I'd be happy to take any questions you might have or any direction.
Ms. Delrigo.
I do have a question, just for clarification, because I want to understand. With the athletic field, right, because it looks like it's $200 for 2 hours, is that correct? Because then the school facility is.
So the turf field is broken up in various components.
So I guess that's my question, because there's a seasonal fee for $150. Are we also charging $200 for 2 hours?
No,
each of
we're
these
charging a
days?
$150 fee. Because
Like what?
again, some districts look at the one-off uses as, all right, if you're just gonna use it for 2 hours, it's $200 in this case, or $600, depending if you're profit or nonprofit. That also gets broken out into 4 hours, into half a day, or into a full day, and it varies again slightly by weekday versus weekend. So again, this is where we get into,
Okay,
it's not easy to necessarily compare one-to-one because different districts have different breakdowns of how they charge their fees.
okay. I just want to make one comment, because it looks like the seasonal fee is for many days for the entire day. So I guess my question is, why are we only charging $150 when on here it says $200 for 2 hours?
Well, because that's, the board in the past has reviewed those fees and looked at those, and that was the direction that the administration was given at the time. I know some districts do charge seasonal fees, so for the football season, they may charge $1,000, or they may charge, in our case, $150. I noted when I reviewed the annual usages, it seemed that the groups that were using our fields were not necessarily seasonal 150, it was sort of application 150. So a group may have put in for August through October, they were charged 150. Then they may have put in for indoor November through January, that was another 150. So again, it was sort of broken up, not just straight sports season, so fall for football or spring for baseball. But again, in terms of applications submitted.
Other questions?
What's the biggest contributor to the fees? Like if you were to guess, would it be the turf field or the gymnasium or the auditorium? Like how does it break down the mix?
So initially I asked the business department to break that down for me in terms of percentages, in terms of users. But then in thinking about it, you can't really do it that way because while our soccer or our basketball folks may use it more frequently because they fall into these other classifications, they're not necessarily paying us the most. So the thought or the feeling is these are local groups with our students from our community, so we charge them accordingly based on that association. Our regulation gets into percentage of Ocean Township residents in certain cases that are on the teams in terms of determining what the fee factor is. So again, when you looked at 2023 at 60,000 versus 2024 at 45,000, you're really looking at two groups that had very limited use, but because they were commercial or for-profit groups, they were charged much higher fees.
Can you share what those two groups were?
I can tell you what one of them. They were a football group that went to Shore Regional because they didn't get paid, they didn't get charged nearly as much as they got charged. Was the QBIQ was one of them, 2023
QBIQ. Is that a dance group?
No, that's football.
So Camp Max was one of them. It was $8,600. And then there was QDIQ, which was almost $6,000.
So go ahead.
I just have one question.
Subsequent years.
In your group of people that you got these average numbers from, did you by chance get their average number of seasonal? The people that do charge seasonal like we do we know approximately what they're charging for those fees?
I did not look at that, but we certainly can if that's what the board would like.
Just 1 second, Mr. Shannon. Did anybody else down here that I didn't see? Okay, Mr. Shannon.
It's not, my question was, not so much the split of like who, but like how, of our assets, what is the most like usually rented out? Is it typically like the turf field, or is it the gymnasium, or is it a split down the middle?
Again, we can look at that, but those are the top two. It's gonna be the fields or the gym. Because most of these are athletic groups that are looking for facilities to use. The one-offs are dance teams and those sorts of things that want to use the auditorium.
Mr. Hastings, first of all, thank you very much for compiling all this. This is super helpful and I appreciate it. School age service groups in our policy under use of school facilities, number 2. This category shall include your youth organizations whose memberships and leadership consist of 2/3 the majority of Ocean Township residents, Little League, Pop Warner, American Youth Football, Soccer Association, other similar organizations. Are those organizations considered profit or nonprofit? And do we even know?
Which, I'm sorry.
Number 2 under our policy. So first page.
Right, so this would be second and third priority, so they would not be charged a facility use fee. However, they get into that $150 per season fee.
Okay, so they're charged a seasonal facility fee, those groups.
If it's frequent and regular use.
Okay. And then, I just want to
So
clarify.
if you look just
Yeah,
informationally,
please clarify.
if you look at the regulation under fee schedule and procedure, you'll see A, B, C, and D there. That sort of talks about our 5 priorities and where they fall in on fees that are charged.
Okay. And then I just want to clarify, do we not charge fees, or is there not a demand for our non-turf fields?
No, we use soccer fields over at the intermediate.
Is that fee the same as the turf field, or is that? Did I miss that? I apologize. Is that under grounds and fields there?
Yes.
So that would be what those fees are. Okay. Wonderful. And then I think that you answered this question. This is my last question. The drop off from 23 to 24 and 25 is solely because of those 2 organizations that you mentioned.
Yes, those were not repeated users in the following 2 years.
And that's why it dropped
And
off.
their fees were approximately the difference.
And a board member stated that was because we were charging too much. Do we know if that's factually accurate? Has that been brought to the administration's attention?
It has not been brought to my attention.
Okay.
But
All right.
I didn't query that.
Just want to clarify. Go ahead, Ms. Stepp. Not questioning what you're saying. I just want to see if it was brought to the administration's attention.
The rates. I apologize if I missed this at a board meeting. When was the last time that they were adjusted for inflation?
The last time the regulation appears to have been updated was March of 2020.
Okay, so we should probably look into that just to adjust for inflation, right? Or I'm
If the
suggesting
board-
or
yeah.
recommending it.
If the board would like that, yeah. Any other questions about anything with the policy? Nothing? Okay, then so with comments like that, one of the things that's been brought to the floor is considering an adjustment for inflation. Is anybody in favor of that, opposed to that, thoughts about that? Go ahead, Mr. Schneider.
I mean, that would be something that you would do in perpetuity. I think that you'd increase the fees every year for CPI adjustments, but then to get us back to average, I think that would be another step that we could take too.
Get us back to what average
Our benchmarks that we have there.
on the right hand side?
Yeah, because if gymnasiums and turf, now listen, the absolute dollars aren't a lot. You're not going to save the world, but at least we could try to gain some money into the town where we're stuck in many ways. So
So I would just caution, as Ms. McGovern pointed out, groups do shop, right? So they'll go to different districts and look for a turf field, and some may not. As we said, Neptune doesn't offer their field, so they'll go to Asbury or here, or some other district, and look at those fees. On the other hand, these are our local community groups that are utilizing our facilities, and we want to keep in mind that they're generating their funds based on fees to parents, and covering those costs through those fees. So there's a balance of what's appropriate to charge, I suppose. And to keep in mind that we're not just selling off to, any particular group. It's our local teams and local community that's paying for that.
Mrs. Stevens.
I would agree with you because we want our community teams to have access. I mean, this is not a big moneymaker for the board, regardless of the dropout. And I think we want our teams to have access so our kids are able to use the facilities. It's the most important thing, not making additional funds here.
Mr. Brady.
I was gonna say, I think for nonprofits, those are gonna be our local organizations, but for-profit organizations who may be coming from other communities, I could see bringing those closer toward the average. I think kind of echoing what you were saying, keeping it for our local communities as is, or maybe just not necessarily bringing it much higher is gonna help the community more so.
And then Mrs. McGovern, then you're next, Mrs. Tallerville.
I was just gonna say, one thing I don't see on the fee schedule, the turf field's fees. I don't know if it says field up to $240, but half day for nonprofit, it says half days $100 and full days $175. So I just wanted to point that out because it's not in line with what's on here. I don't know if it's a discrepancy or not. I thought there was a separate, like we had Black Box Theater separate from auditorium. I thought there used to be a place for turf. Maybe I'm not seeing it because I don't have my glasses.
Right, so we have high school stadium at the bottom here.
Oh, see, that's why I don't have glasses on right now. So that's part of the Oh, down here. Sorry, I didn't miss that. Okay, thank you. The other thing that I just wanted to put out there, and I don't remember whose idea it was years ago, but I'll just throw it out there. One of the things we had looked at because of the fact that there are certain groups like soccer and basketball that use it more than say, I don't know, other people that like football because I know it, and lacrosse maybe only use it a certain amount of days. Generally, for example, because I did football, it can be in my brain. In a season, football used it 4 or 5 days. That was pretty much it. Where on a Sunday, that was the only time they used our high school turf field. Where soccer's there, as we've all heard and we know, many, many days. So we had talked about possibly a sliding scale of if you use it 1 to 10 times, it's 100, whatever, 150. If you use it 10 to 20, it's such and such, 20 to 30. And it was supposed to be per season, not because you can fill out a form for the entire year and be done. But it was supposed to be the fall season, in line kind of with our sports, the fall season, the winter season, and the spring season, no matter what you were. And you would, the other thing that it was supposed to be was if you're using, or we had talked about, I shouldn't say supposed to, we had mentioned, and I don't remember where it stopped or if it came to the floor or not. If you used the high school turf, but you also used the high school field up front or the field in the back, like if you were using 2 fields at the high school, you got charged separately for the 2 fields. So you got charged a seasonal fee for the turf and a seasonal fee for another field. So I'm just saying those were ideas to maybe do a little bit more. When you have someone using it 4 days and you have someone using it 400 days, not 400, but you have somebody using it much more to charge. We had said like to charge them the same amount didn't make sense because if you were going to raise the fees, like they're probably not charging as much if you're only a 1 season sport or something like that. So that's just another idea to put out there, just so it's out there.
Mrs. Tallerville.
When was the last time we were able to update or renovate any of the fields? It's been a long time, I'm
Right,
sure,
so
because
we put in lights at the stadium last year.
I mean the turf, just
so the
the
turf-
grounds.
Right. So the turf at the high school is field turf. Field turf, generally speaking, says 10 to 12 years as a lifetime. Of course, it depends on usage and how many groups and how often you're using the field, which also then dictates our maintenance of the field.
Right.
So we have people come out who groom the field, who do concussion or impact testing on it, and redistribute the little rubber beads that are in there, and,
Yeah,
all that fun stuff. And then it's just wear and tear as, we look at it and things start to fade a little bit.
what about at the middle school or down?
So again, it's all grass. It's hard to maintain in that when you have constant use, you can't seed and sort of fertilize and leave it alone for a period of time to allow the grass to grow and take root, because you've got the different groups using it, but
So
again,
could,
it's,
I mean, hypothetically, could,
it's ongoing.
if some of these fees were raised down the line, could we renovate, update, some of these fields so that they're even and better for the players that are on them?
Sure, so any revenue we receive from the use can be turned back into maintaining them, and that's sort of what we do.
That's what it's
It's just about how much you can turn back in and
Right. So it would be given back to the kids in the long run, is my point. Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Okay, so we have a proposal to adjust for inflation, right? We have a secondary proposal to only adjust for the profit groups, right? And then we have another proposal that maybe we should consider a sliding scale due to use, right? So go ahead, Brian.
I had a proposal.
Okay, go ahead, please.
No, I said bring them up to the averages, because like Mr. Hastings said, like they can't, that's
Just
our
a
cap.
uniform, bring them to the
Right to
averages.
the averages, and then we can do the CPIs afterwards, so it's like a hybrid of what Ms. Tam said.
And we've also had a couple people say that they don't believe that we should do anything to this, right? So definitely a little conflicted. Is anything that is proposed right now something that members of the board agree with in particular? Does anybody have one of those things that they would say that they lean more towards to try to get a consensus here? Because we've got 4 to 5 potential routes we can take here. I'd like
That's a
to
lot.
narrow it down.
I think there's 2 things going on. I think that there might need to be like a policy change in general of kind of what Ms. McGovern was saying about the sliding scale and how we go about doing that, and maybe also saying every 3 years we adjust for CPI or whatever it is. That's one thing. But then what to do right now with our prices. That's what it sounds like to me, of what needs to happen.
Okay. Does anybody disagree with that? Or is that, so now we have an idea to potentially modify for a sliding scale for increased charges as well as adjust for inflation, put that on a time frame in our policy?
I just have a comment that I think a sliding scale seems like a lot for the business office to be managing. And again, we're an educational facility, not a business facility. So I think in terms of if we're going to maybe look to adjust, as you said, to the average, keeping it very simple so that it's easy for them to manage. And a sliding scale and keeping track of ticks of how many times somebody uses something seems like that could become a little overwhelming, especially considering how many facilities do use, how many groups do use our.
I would just say conversely, I understand what you're saying, but the difference would be it would go based upon what you put in for. So when they come in and say, I'm putting in my fall season, I have 40 dates or whatever, or I come in and put my fall season and have 5 dates. So I don't know that you've necessarily, you're going by what you put in. So if you put in for 10 dates, whether you're there those 10 dates or not, that would be my thought.
Unless
Yeah.
somebody puts in next week for 5 more dates in the same season.
Right.
An
I see what you're saying.
applicant would have to put in a complete application to avoid what Ms.
Yeah.
Stevens is saying. We wouldn't want to receive weekly applications to appear like we might miss count.
Right.
So,
To
so
miscount.
to cut through the fat of this, to try to get to maybe some consensus on one thing. So a adjustment for inflation would be roughly 7% increase in the fees currently, right? So we would just take the fees and then do a uniform adjustment across all of them and increase them by 7%.
Can I just say one more thing?
Sure.
Going by just doing the averages, that's easy right now. Then if we have to adjust it again, we're gonna have to go through this analysis again to adjust through the averages. So the work's done this time, but it's gonna have to continue doing it by CPI. It's, what the percentage, what it is. It's a little bit of a less maintenance of adjusting if we wanna go that route. I just wanted
So-
to add that in.
Commit. So I would concede mine to do the CPI, but it wouldn't just be 7% on top of a rate that we established in 2020. We'd have to take that from 2020 up to 2025 at 3 to 7%. So it would be we get
So
that.
you're saying that instead of just doing a uniform increase across everything right now by 7%, you would rather see an annual compounding increase
To get us
based
through
on the
that.
consumer price index.
Yeah, then that's in our policy going forward, so we're covered on that, so it's.
And then you're proposing on top of that that we modify the policy so we continuously do that annually.
CPI, yeah.
Yeah, so you wanna back for 5 years going back, you wanna increase it to bring it up via the CPI and then additionally increase it via the CPI annually.
Yeah.
That's your
And I say that because I
proposal.
just did this in my freshman.
Okay, Mrs. Gilman,
I can't go along with that. If these nonprofits, or excuse me, if the profit organizations are shopping around for the best deal, I think we should bring that up to the average so that rather than looking for the lowest price, they look at our facility and say, wow, we've got a beautiful auditorium, we've just updated the sound and the lighting, let's go with Ocean Township. I do not want to punish our community groups. I don't think that we should raise the nonprofit. I would agree to raise the profit up to the average.
Another option.
yeah, so I think that maybe we need to identify, and I think I wanna remind the board that at any point, we can, discuss this policy again, we can put it again on the agenda for a future meeting. Is there potentially one step that we would like to work towards taking right now? Something along the lines of just increasing the profits to the average, something simple that is an action that we can take, or is there nothing the board can gain consensus on? Do I have any consensus on increasing just the profit group to the average right now? Can I get a straw poll on who would support that? I have one, just the profit groups to the average in front of us right now. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I have a majority, so I didn't count myself, 9, I have a majority. Okay, so that being said, we would need to draft a change to policy, read the policy twice, and then make that modification, okay? So with that, before, I understand that everyone has questions right now, and we'll answer them in a second. So with that, what I'm saying, asking the administration to do is to take our profit groups, move them to the average that is presented only, modify that to our policy, and present that for consideration to the board at our next meeting for the first reading, okay? So if we do have changes that we would like to make, then we can move from there. Questions?
Can we go to the average number, like instead of 438, be 440?
I don't understand the question, so I
Can we
need to
go to like the
clarify.
whole number, like 438 is the turf field, can it be 440, can we just round to like a nice number?
That's for nonprofit.
So we'll round it to the nearest 10, okay? Awesome.
Is that
What-
easier?
comment or question?
Listings.
My accounting brain is just, it would be nice to see the whole picture and not just like piecemeal this, which is what it's sounding like we're gonna eventually be doing. I mean, I do support looking at the profit and that's great, but breaking it up and then having another discussion about this, and then we might be like, oh, well, we should have went about it this way, and then we have to go backwards again. Just feel like there should be one larger conversation and do it all together.
So previously I had a majority consensus
Yeah,
in
okay,
favor of this.
sorry.
Do I now have a vote against it? A single vote against it?
I thought you were, sorry to clarify.
And we are only proposing a change to policy that will be discussed again in
Okay,
the next 2 meetings.
yeah.
I thought you were doing that and then going back to nonprofit, like I thought you were just breaking that up into two.
I asked for a single
two
consensus
sections.
on one item, right? And I clearly articulate. So to clearly articulate again, just so we're all on the same page, and this is totally okay, because it's good to know this. We are asking, and I am under the impression I got a majority vote in favor of this. We are asking that the administration moves the district's profit charging fee up to what the average is that they have presented from the entire, the pool of schools that they requested, and that they bring that back to us. That is all that we are discussing
To the nearest
and
$10.
changing to the nearest $10. Thank you for pointing that out. So I'm gonna take a straw poll again on that. Can I see who's in favor of that? Please raise your hand. Okay, so I have a majority in favor of that. So we are gonna make that change, and that's gonna be proposed via policy, and then we have the opportunity to discuss this again in the future. Do you have another change you'd like to propose to the
Well,
board?
I think that we should. Listen, I am not for charging our children of this town either. I do think that there is. If we're opening this up right now, and to open it up again in 6 months or a year or 2 years and then go back to nonprofit, I think is the wrong time. I think if people are wanting to even just go up $25 or $50 or no dollars or whatever, I think it should be discussed right now before we close this for the week. That, whether we do, I don't agree with, I'm sorry, Mr. Schneider, but the whole like bringing it up to 7% and then doing that, which I think we kind of took off the table, but I'm not against personally either bringing the seasonal fee up a tiny bit or doing a sliding scale and leaving the lowest one at 150 and then going to 250 and 500, whatever we want to do. But I do think that if there's a point where a majority of this board is going to want to discuss raising any nonprofit, and maybe that is the straw poll first, that if we have a majority that wants to raise it even just a little bit, that should be discussed now and not in a future meeting.
So you're asking the board to take a straw poll now on if we want to also raise nonprofit?
Correct.
Okay,
Whatever.
can I have a hand raised for anyone who would also like to raise nonprofit?
Can I ask
Just,
a
if you
question?
could just take this vote and then we'll, so no.
Yeah.
Okay, I should have asked for questions to begin with, go ahead.
Because I hear what Mrs. McGovern is saying, but I think that there's a couple of points out there. So going to the straw poll on the whole thing is not the same as CPI going back 5 years and $25. Like, I think that there's a lot of questions in that.
I guess I'll go back and say the seasonal fee. If we want to talk about the seasonal fee of changing, because those are the people that only pay a seasonal fee, they don't pay this nonprofit price at all. So I'm just saying, so may I amend what I was asking?
Of
Is
course.
if anyone wants to, if we have a majority of people that want to discuss the seasonal fee for our nonprofit, mostly that group, whatever, B or 2 or whatever it was of the soccers and the footballs and the, baseballs and the basketball, mostly sports. Do we want to talk about the seasonal fee? If we don't want to talk about the seasonal fee, then I'll drop it. I just don't want to say in 2 weeks, we want to talk about it 6 months or a year. I'd rather if it's going to get discussed now before the next season starts.
As a point of procedure, I just want to be clear that any board member can bring up any topic
Yeah.
that they want at any single time, no matter what anybody would like. So if someone decides 2 weeks from now they would like to bring that up, they are able to do so. That being said, so what is now proposed, and we have 20 minutes left to get through the rest of this agenda, so we need to potentially kind of come to a consensus here, or we can table all of this
I think
discussion
it
as
needs to
well.
be, right?
So what is now being proposed is that we consider amending the seasonal fee for nonprofits as well, okay? So do I have any members who are in favor of that? Amending the seasonal fee, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, I do not have a majority in favor of that. Did I miss a vote? Okay, I do not have a majority in favor of that.
I just
So-
wanna say, and I know we have to move on.
Yeah.
That Mr. Hastings said he was gonna go back and find out what the seasonal fees were for a couple of these other districts. So I think we need that information before we can discuss. We might be very well in line with the other districts.
Okay. That being said, we did have a majority vote in favor of raising the for-profit groups up to the average at the nearest 10. So that will be proposed in the next meeting. We're gonna move on at this point, okay? And thank you, everybody. I appreciate the questions. We're gonna move
Not
on.
not a question.
We're gonna move on. We have to move on.
You
We have to move on right now. So, okay. Thank you.
Public comment.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I thought we were going into presentation minutes. All right. Board of Education recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on school matters of community interest. Public comment is not a question and answer session. Specific questions can be directed to the administration. The superintendent's contact information is downstairs on the podium and on our district website. We encourage you to contact her with any questions that you may have. Public participation shall be governed by the following rules. Each statement made by a participant shall be limited to 5 minutes in duration. No participant may speak more than once on the same topic until all others who wish to speak on that topic have been heard. And the presiding officer may request any person to leave the meeting when that person does not observe reasonable decorum. Would anyone from the public like to comment on anything at this time? We have no one present here. Do we have anyone downstairs who would like to comment on anything at this time?
Yes, we do. Sorry. Yeah. Morning, double duty. Okay, Alex Hayes, Oakhurst. With the new board since the first of the year, this is like the quickest I've ever seen action in one meeting. You guys are deciding to raise rates on facilities. I commend you. It's amazing. One board member, I don't know if it was, I believe it was Ms. McGovern, mentioned that of the two that didn't return this year, that they left because it was too expensive here in Ocean. But let's be real. The QBIQ was Coach Klein's camp. He is now a coach at Shore Regional. That's why he left. He didn't, we could probably ask them, but I highly doubt he left because of our fees. He left because he's no longer a coach here. Regardless, I still applaud you all for alleging to raise rates soon. It's a little difficult to see what you all were looking at because the slides, like there were no slides of the public document that's in front of you. So I guess it's just a heads up to Mr. Hastings that I'll be asking for a copy of the research you just presented to the 9 board members today via email. Going through my list here. I saw that in going over contracts, there is a report on all the contracts that this district has entered into, and I see the Bush Law Firm and Kenny Gross and Cravats. One is supposed to be just labor and special services, and the other one is general school board. But when I opened all the legal fees for this year, it did seem like Kenny Gross and Cravats was doing a lot of non-labor legal. So I'm wondering why that's the case if this document today states that they're only supposed to be doing labor and special services and not general school board counsel. So that is a question, wondering whether we are having our labor attorney doing general counsel stuff and in tens of thousands of dollars to do that. I also saw in today's documents that there will be a $240,000 upgrade to the high school. I guess that's after that flood or whatever happened. What was it? From the rains. And it says that insurance will partially offset it. Mr. Hastings, I'm wondering if you can let me know how much of the $240,000 is going to be covered by insurance. The Head Start contract, to be honest, 40 pages, it was too long for me to peruse. So I'm just wondering if I did not see if it said any additional kids. Are we still looking at 30 kids for Acelero? That's a question. Let's see. I also see $230,000 that we have spent this year in quote architectural engineering services. I'm wondering if it's possible to get a breakdown of that, what we spent $230,000 on for architectural and engineering. I think this might be it for right now. Where it says posted checks, there's like over 100 people getting $588 each. I'm assuming that is us paying private school families for their monthly transportation stipend. So I'm wondering if you could just confirm that, if that's what that $588 per month for like, what, 200 families? I think that's it. I don't know if anybody else here wants to speak. Where am I at time-wise? Because I still probably have some questions.
A minute and 22 seconds, Mrs. Hayes.
And you know, I'll use it. We have never done the 50% discretionary deletion of fees to coaches and staff until this year. I know you responded to me, Mr. Hastings, but I was just wondering if the board can comment on why we started doing that as of January 1st of this year. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you, Mrs. Hayes. Do we have any other members of the public present downstairs who would like to comment?
No.
Thank you. Mrs. Conway, do we have anyone in the queue who would like to comment at this time?
No, Mr. President, there are no commenters.
All right. Thank you so much, Mrs. Conway. Presentation of minutes, Mr. Dalton.
Mr. McCarthy, thank you. Presentation of minutes, item 7.1. That would be an item to be voted on later downstairs. Any comments, questions, concerns?
Okay, wonderful. Personnel was discussed in executive session. Financial management and resource services, Mrs. Dan.
Thank you. Up for discussion 9.1 through 9.12. Nothing specific I want to bring up.
Thank you. Anything you would like to comment on, Mr. Hastings?
Yes, there are a large number of housekeeping items on this agenda. These are annual renewals that go into next year that we're required to adopt. Also on this agenda is the authorization to move forward with repairs to the lighting and sound systems at the high school auditorium, with the cost being offset by $100,000 from insurance recovery. And following that is the withdrawal from maintenance reserve for the balance of $134,000. So that resolution is also on there. We're looking to get those approved this evening, and that way we can have the auditorium up and running by the end of August with all new equipment and upgrades to the lighting to LED. So it's an exciting project that we're looking forward to moving forward.
Comments or questions for? Yes, Stella, go.
The summary bills, there's an item for All Risk Inc. I looked it up, I couldn't find it on the agendas in the past. Is that new?
No, so All Risk, if you go back to maybe December, probably January's agenda,
Okay.
After the org meeting, you'll see probably in January, maybe February, but probably January, the appointment of All Risk. They were the rehabilitation company, the restoration company that was hired through Monmouth Ocean Ed Services Commission to do the repairs to the carpeting and the ceilings and all the other things that were damaged in the leak at the auditorium.
I just didn't know if it was an insurance company or something, because I couldn't find it, so thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Instruction, education, and student activities, Mr. Dalton.
Thank you. Yes, items 10.1 through 10.5 up for discussion, though some of these were discussed in executive session.
10.1 and 10.4 executive session topics. So, any comments or questions on 10.2 through 10.5?
Annually, the NJDOE asks districts to approve an emergency virtual or remote instruction plan. So you'll see that there in front of you, and the nursing services plan is approved each year annually. So again, some annual approvals there as well.
None? Okay, old business. I had to stop you before. Now would be a wonderful time if you had a comment to make regarding what we discussed already.
Thank you. I just wanted to compliment Mr. Hastings, because I had no idea the materiality of the fees, so seeing it was great. And my old boss used to say, we're looking for manhole covers, not quarters. So the fact that we're able to increase the fees, it's not going to solve our problems, but at least we're taking a fiduciary responsibility that we need to do. So I'm willing to work with the team here and see if there's other ways to do some things.
I wanna echo also what Mr. Schneider's saying, and just, I agree, it's hard, you don't wanna increase prices, you don't wanna put another burden on the parents and for the kids, but at the same time, a school does need to be run as a business at a certain point, just like we had to go through, especially Mrs. Walden and Mr. Hastings, through the budget. I mean, that's what we're here for, and again, it's hard, but I think that there's a lot more thought that needs to go into exactly how we restructure the policies to the rate, and I think that it does need to be tabled for further discussion, but I do appreciate that we did have discussion, and moving forward, I just wanted to say that extra piece.
Mrs. Talrigo.
I just have one question. So in the past, we were able to formulate the finance committee so that we could talk about some of this and bring it back to the board for further discussion. There's a lot of, issues when it comes to this particular topic. Why couldn't we have a finance committee meeting?
Can I answer that? Sorry.
So we operate as a board of the whole, right? So we don't have a need to make a decision in committee or take any actions in committee. It's actually not authorized. We could, should a majority of the board direct the committee to do so, conduct an analysis of this. That would kind of require certain parts of the administration's time. And so, with that being said.
I would just question, I'm not certain, would it be policy committee?
Policy committee.
It's a policy change, I think it might be the policy committee.
That being said.
Downstairs, in the auditorium,
One flight down?
one flight down.
Maybe 2 stairs.
2 flights.
So that being said, does the board desire that the policy committee considers this? Yeah, go ahead.
as somebody who sat on that committee and had the meetings before, I think that this particular policy, it's actually a negative situation putting it in committee because it does come back and many people on the board have many questions and different feedback on it. So you end up having a gazillion answers and then, work that gets done sometimes just ends up getting shut down right then. So I for this, for other things, I may say go to committee, but for this particular policy, sitting in committee twice on it, it is better on this board, in my opinion.
Did you have a comment? It looked like you were about to make a comment.
No, I'll reframe right now.
Does anyone else have a comment? Okay, so I don't think I'm hearing a majority of the board wanting the committee to assess this. Would you like me to take a straw poll vote?
Well, I just have another comment.
Okay,
So the policy says that any committee can be formed or convened if either the chair of the committee or two members of the committee want it. Not that we have to take this whole vote and straw poll and discussion.
yeah, so
That's
just
not part of the policy.
I understood, respect that. I don't see a need for this as a use of the administration's resources. I would argue that the board is up to decide where we direct the administration to use their resources. So if you and Mrs. Dam wanted to meet in that regard and you decided that and then you wanted to bring anything back, no action could be taken. I don't know that we could consider that a formal committee meeting because we operate as a board of the whole. But because it would be two board members, I don't think we can restrict that either. That being said, I am asking the board here if they would like to direct the administration to support that. It does not seem as though the board desires that from what I'm seeing. Mr. Schneider.
So I don't know if the formality of a committee is what we're discussing, but there is a benefit to having a couple people with some varying opinions, which you saw that on this particular topic, and they can hash it out and come to maybe one or two and do a caucus that is not official.
So, and we do, this board does not operate that way. This is a board of the whole, right? So if we chose to operate as a board of the committee, where we had separate committees that had separate meetings, that would be the appropriate process to
Formal
take.
process.
Yes, that formal process would be the appropriate one to take. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay.
And just to follow up, yes, of course, everybody's gonna have differing opinions, especially when it comes to finance, but that's why we meet together here as a whole, so that you can put your ideas out there and we can discuss it and we can hear it and, agree with it or, or not agree with it. And I think that's the beauty of us making decisions as a whole.
Mrs. Tower-Gill.
We are making decisions as a whole, but we have in the past, because I've been here for 6 years, met on these committees. So it's either we meet, why have a policy for committees if we're not gonna have any meetings? I don't understand that. That's very confusing to me, because it seemed like this has already been looked at, but we don't have any of the information, and Ms. Dam wasn't here. And I wasn't on that committee, but Ms. McGovern was, so could you share that information with us?
I shared some of the information that came out of that, but
Yeah,
but
so
that's
we're
why I'm
just
saying,
gonna-
like, that's what I'm saying is when you then come, like.
I'm gonna
understand
pause here.
that, yeah.
We're not gonna bring up old business that was
Yeah.
taken by this board or committees. That being said, heard loud and clear, appreciate your comments, Mrs. Tower-Gill. Mr. Dalton.
Just one quick question. Worked with multiple boards, you're either a committee or you're board of the whole. We've all gone through it in New Jersey School Board's training. I think what's tricky here is we have this thing where we assign committees, but the reality is we've chosen to work as a board, as a board of the whole. And I think it gets very tricky when we say we're gonna do two different things. New Jersey School Boards would not advise you to be running your governance in two different ways. You choose one or you choose the other. Both can work very well. This board has chosen for many years to work as a board of the whole, and we need to work as a board of the whole if that's how we work. That's just my opinion. I've worked on committees. I've been the administrator working with committees. That can function well too, but we choose to work as board of the whole, and we need to honor that.
Thank you, Mr. Dalton. Mrs. Tower-Gill.
And I agree, I absolutely agree with Mr. Dalton, I do. But then, we shouldn't have legislative committee where certain members go and meet with other members of the community. If it's a board of a whole, then we should all be invited. Or just get rid of, the committees. We have to make a decision. This has been an issue for many years. This isn't new.
Thank
This
you,
was
Mrs.
even
Tower-Gill.
before you were
Can we
on.
table this and bring up our board structure at another meeting on an agenda item if people want
Absolutely.
to?
I'm
Sure.
intending to move on anyway, so, but yes, we can.
I don't need everyone.
That being said, do I have any other old business? Do I have any new business? Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to
Second.
Thank you.